Hi, this is Kaushik Ranchod here, and today what I'm going to talk about is the I751 removal of conditions, what you really need to know, because the process does not end for many of you after you get your initial green card. So you'll want to stay tuned to determine when you need to file, who of you need to file, and what application you file. All right. So first of all, one of the biggest mistakes I see is people filing the wrong forms. Okay, it's confusing. I don't blame you because USCIS, do they make anything easy? I don't know. All right. So what the big problem I see here is the I751 is the removal of conditions. So yeah, they might tell you, okay, you need to renew your green card. Well, what the biggest mistake is people file the form I-90 instead of the form I-751. So what I'm talking about specifically here is when you've been married less than 2 years and you need to remove the conditions on your green card, because when you get your green card, based off of marriage with that initial filing, it is a conditional green card. Basically, in a way, look at it like a temporary green card. So in that situation, when you have the green card for a year and 9 months, you are eligible to apply to remove the conditions. So 90 days before the 2-year anniversary of getting your green card. This is extremely important. The reason it's so important here is because if you fail to file, you could lose your green card and be put into removal proceedings. So you want to make sure that you file this application. It is something to take very seriously. All right, you might say, well, I get it. Okay, well, good. I'm glad you got it. I hope you got it. I'm going to assume you do. Okay, so in that situation then, what you need to do is not just file the form. There's much more to filing the form. What they really are looking for is the joint documents, because that is evidence that you have a real relationship. So in this situation, you file your application with the joint documents demonstrating you have a real relationship, and you might be asking, okay, well, what are some of those joint documents? Well, I'm going to lay out some of those joint documents for you here. If joint lease, joint bank accounts, joint car insurance, joint utility bills, joint credit card bills, those are some examples of joint documents that you'll want to submit with your application. If you submit your application with no joint documents, then that could very well lead to a request for evidence. Those are never fun, not for the attorney, not for you. No one likes requests for evidence. So we always want to try to mitigate that. We always want to try to avoid that. And the way we do that is try to submit as much information as possible in the beginning. And sometimes you just can't avoid getting a request for evidence. You may get an officer that just feels like issuing a request for evidence because of X, Y, or Z. But at least you know you've done your best. You've done everything that you could have done by making sure that you've done your part by providing all of the information that you have. Now, another important point with the I-751 is that you could be called in for an interview if they find that they don't think that you don't have a bona fide relationship. So that's where I typically see people called in for an interview. That doesn't mean that you may not be called in for an interview otherwise, but that's what I see in most situations. And that comes back to the evidence that you provide. So the way to avoid an interview is by submitting a very thorough application. Now, another very important factor is that both of you need to show up to the interview. If you both don't show up to the interview, then they'll either 1, reschedule the interview, or 2, deny. You'll want to make sure that both of you show up to the interview. That is extremely important, that both you and your spouse are there, or your application could be denied. Additionally, there's issues where you and your spouse may be divorced. In that situation, you file basically an exception or a waiver, if you will, of the joint filing requirement. So what you need to demonstrate is that you had a real relationship despite the fact that you got divorced. It's really important to provide documentation showing that you had a real relationship. You'll want to get affidavits from friends and family to that effect, as well as provide joint documents like I mentioned earlier. And those are just some of the examples, joint documents that you'll want to provide. And of course, you need to provide your divorce decree, the judgment, certified copy. You will be called most likely for an interview in the situation. There's also other exceptions to the joint waiver requirement as well, but the joint filing requirement, but the most common one is based off of having a real relationship. So, if you like this video, please like the like button. If you have questions, feel free to call us, and feel free to comment below. We'd love to hear your comments, and share this video with 2 people so they can be informed as well. Bye for now.